Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. The last drops of whiskey were nearly gone. Staring into my glass, I couldn't help but think that drowning in good whiskey was far better than in cheap wine. Would this endless streak of bad luck ever end? Just yesterday, while driving on the highway, my car's oil pressure dropped, and the engine was wrecked beyond repair. Today wasn't any better. I chipped a front tooth, which now meant an expensive crown I couldn't afford. As if that weren't enough, I was completely broke. Last week, my business collapsed after my largest client went bankrupt, taking with them everything I'd invested in the project. Technically, I didn't even own the apartment I was sitting in. Soon, the bank would take that too. I tried to focus on the rich aroma of the whiskey, but a sharp ring of the doorbell snapped me out of my thoughts. Another problem? I thought bitterly. Opening the door, I saw someone I least expected. Amelia, I whispered in shock. 15 years. What are you doing here? Can we come in? She asked in a trembling voice. Alexander and we need to talk, Richard. We need your help, she added, her words spilling out quickly, almost nervously. Reluctantly, I let them in, and we sat in the living room. Sorry, I said, gesturing toward the empty whiskey bottle. That's all I have left. I can only offer you coffee. We're not here for drinks, Amelia interrupted. Just hear us out, and then we'll explain what we need from you. All right, I replied, still unsure where this was going. What's happening? Amelia took a deep breath, and I realized she was about to reveal something from the past. It all started more than 15 years ago when I met Alexander. As you know, we fell in love, and he wanted me to leave you for him. I agreed and planned to ask you for a divorce. I remember, I said, still not understanding where this was leading. I told Alexander I wanted to have a child with him, and I was going to ask you for a clean break. But then he told me something terrible. He wasn't infertile, but he had a genetic disease. He couldn't risk passing it on, so we always used protection. Do you see where this is going, Richard? A chill ran through my body. You're saying, I mumbled. Yes, she confirmed. You're Olivia's father. I leaned back in my chair, stunned. You manipulated me, didn't you? Yes, she admitted without hesitation. I told Alexander that if I got pregnant by you but said it was his child, would he agree to raise it? He agreed. He wanted to be a father, even if the child wasn't biologically his. If you're here for money, I can't help, I interrupted. I'm broke. My business collapsed. The bank is taking the apartment. There's nothing left. No, it's not about money, Amelia quickly replied. But if you help us, we can help you. I don't take handouts, I snapped. What exactly do you want from me? She hesitated, taking a deep breath, and I saw fear in her eyes. It's about Olivia. She has leukemia. She needs a bone marrow transplant, and neither Alexander nor I are a match. We're hoping you'll agree to be tested. There's a chance you might be compatible. The room fell silent as her words sank in. I saw the desperation on her face. And if I'm a match? I asked, feeling the weight of the situation. If you're a match, you can save her life, Amelia replied softly. We haven't found anyone else who is compatible. For Olivia, it's a matter of life and death, Richard. We don't have any other options. For a while, I sat in silence, torn between anger and the realization of the gravity of the situation. Was I angry? Absolutely. But could I refuse to help a little girl who had nothing to do with this? No, I couldn't allow that. After what felt like an eternity, I finally spoke. You lied to me, Amelia. You destroyed our 12-year marriage. Do you understand that? I understand, she said, her voice shaking. I'm so sorry for what I did. But please, don't punish Olivia for my mistakes. She's innocent. I let out a heavy sigh, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on me. There was no turning back now. Here's the translation of the text into English. It's entirely my responsibility, she quietly admitted. I won't argue, I replied, but I'll help only under certain conditions. I'll accept any of your conditions, she said firmly, as long as you help save her. Her name is Olivia, right? That's what you called her. Alexander thought it would be symbolic to name her after your mother. Guilt laced my voice. We felt ashamed for hiding the truth from you back then. If she survives, do you want to raise her? No, she said resolutely. Taking her out of the home isn't an option, but she deserves to know the truth, and I want the right to visit her whenever necessary. You also need to cover all her medical expenses. Mine, too. I can't afford to pay for anything. And one more thing, I added. I don't have a car, so you'll have to drive me to the hospital for the tests. She agreed without hesitation. 3 days later, we were sitting in the doctor's office, nervously waiting for my test results. The doctor hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. I don't know how to put this, he began slowly. Mr. Davis, what makes you think you're the father of this child? My ex-wife told me 2 days ago, I replied with a casual shrug. My wife turned nervously to the doctor. The father was supposed to be Richard, she explained. I got pregnant before I left him. I told him it was Alexander's child to get a quick divorce. The truth is, she continued, Alexander isn't her biological father either. We've already confirmed that. It must be Richard. The doctor shook his head, his voice firm but gentle. I'm sorry, but there's no doubt. Richard Davis is not the father of this child. And he's also not a match for the bone marrow transplant. The results show complete incompatibility. We all turned to Amelia, stunned. Then she exploded in anger. That lying Michael! He swore he was sterile. Michael? Alexander asked in surprise. Yes, I replied, starting to piece it all together. She's talking about the neighbor. He was notorious for his affairs with women. The woman who had betrayed both me and her lover was now in a desperate situation. Her lust had led her to a point where she didn't even know who the father of her child was, and the fate of that little girl was sealed. There was no other way out, and I wanted so badly to save her, but, unfortunately, it wasn't within my power. Alexander soon left Amelia and took the house away from her. That's how life sometimes turns out. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Our neighborhood stretches in a crescent shape on the outskirts of the city, bordered by a winding creek that curves around its northern side. The creek serves as a natural boundary, preventing further expansion beyond the existing houses. The lots closer to the creek were snatched up immediately when they went on sale, but our house is situated a bit farther away, closer to the city center. One evening, as I was returning home, I didn't bother pulling into the garage. Mary's car was already parked there, so I left mine outside and got out. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, no strange cars in the driveway, but something caught my attention. Curious, I snapped a few quick photos before heading to the back door. Once inside, I locked the door behind me. Mary was waiting for me, casually relaxed in a robe. Are you going to bed? I asked. In a way, she replied with a smile. I was hoping for a bit of romance after dinner. How does that sound? Sounds like a plan, I said. Let me just change. After dinner, I decided to ask her a few questions. What were you doing when I called to say I'd be home earlier? I started preparing dinner and changed into this robe, she replied. That's it? I'd like to hear it all, step by step, I pressed. She looked at me with mild confusion. What do you mean? I just want the details, I said. Tell me everything, in order. Still puzzled, Mary agreed. All right. I prepped the ingredients for dinner, set everything to cook, then went upstairs, took off my clothes, and put on this robe. Oh, and these slippers too. What happened next? I asked. Then I came downstairs, poured myself a glass of wine, and waited for you. That's all. Nothing else? Like, you didn't close the curtains? She glanced at the windows. The curtains were already drawn. It gets dark so early in the winter. What's going on? Why all the questions? I'll get back to that, I said. But first, take off the slippers. The house is warm enough, don't you think? If you say so, she said, slipping off the slippers. I took her hand and led her to the bedroom. Did you undress here? Obviously, she replied. "And where are your panties?" I asked. "What?" "You heard me," I said. She walked into the bathroom and started rummaging through the laundry basket before pulling out a pair of panties. "Here," she said, almost defiantly, as if expecting my reaction. I took the panties from her hand. "Why were they at the bottom of the basket?" "I don't know," she said, annoyed. "You know," I countered, turning the panties inside out and showing them to her. "Look." "There's nothing to look at," she snapped. "There is," I insisted, pointing to a damp spot. "They're wet." She rolled her eyes. "I told you I was aroused earlier, that's all." "It seems that's not the case anymore," I muttered, tossing the panties aside. I led her to the shower. "The floor here is still wet. Did you shower after my call?" "Yes," she said, clearly irritated. "So what?" "You said you'd tell me everything, but you left that part out," I said. "Oh, come on," she exclaimed. "How was I supposed to know how detailed you wanted? I showered to freshen up for you, but honestly it seems like that doesn't matter anymore, does it?" She sighed heavily, clearly frustrated. "Let's go downstairs," I said, leading her out of the bathroom. She followed me, barefoot and silent. I escorted her to the front door and swung it open abruptly. She glanced outside, surprise flickering in her soft voice. "I didn't notice it had started snowing." "It's already stopped," I replied, "but it began just as I was leaving work. Do you see the tracks in the snow leading from the house?" She remained silent, her body tensing as a light shiver ran through her from the cold. "Look at the last set of tracks near the edge of the driveway," I continued. "Next to it, there's another set. Those are mine. His shoe size is the same as mine, size 9, and that dark spot, that's where his car was parked. That told me he arrived just before the snowfall about 2 hours ago. If you look closely, you can see where his car went, heading north. That means he lives somewhere nearby, maybe closer to the creek." "I can explain everything if you need me to," she began. "No need," I interrupted. "He parked right here in our driveway and slept with you today. He was here when I called to say I'd be home early, am I wrong?" Her lips stayed closed, but her silence spoke volumes. "Yeah, that's what I thought." She lowered her head, avoiding my gaze in shame. "You're going to leave him, right?" I asked. "Yes," she whispered softly. "Good," I replied. "Then go and tell him." I pulled her robe off her shoulders, my eyes lingering on her bare skin one last time. Without saying another word, I pushed her into the cold and locked the door behind her. 32 years of marriage had just come to an end. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. For the last year and a half, 3 times a week, I walked past the same bar on my way to the gym, trying to get in shape before turning 45. Tomorrow is that day. Last week, for the first time in many years, I managed to fit into my wedding dress. I couldn't believe how proud I felt. But when I looked around to celebrate the achievement, I was alone. My husband was away on a work trip. The kids, friends, and colleagues were busy with their own lives. Even my parents were gone. Feeling a bit sad, I decided to stop by that bar today. I finished my first drink quickly, and the second one wasn't far behind. Then David appeared and offered to buy me a third. I mentioned that I was married with 3 kids, but that didn't seem to bother him. He stayed, listened to me, smiled, and soon I found myself laughing with him. The alcohol helped me forget all my worries. Before long, our laughter grew louder, and I realized how close we had become. David leaned in closer, but something pulled me back to reality. I stood up abruptly, mumbling that I had to leave. As I looked around, I noticed the bar had almost emptied. The patrons had either gone home or moved on to other places. A slight dizziness reminded me that driving wasn't an option. Despite my persistent requests to call a taxi, David walked me outside. I kept repeating that the taxi would arrive in 7 minutes, but he stayed by my side anyway. The night was cool and I felt a shiver. David immediately draped his coat over my shoulders, but the touch made me uneasy. He stepped closer, wrapping me in his arms. "I can't let you freeze," he said softly. A part of me wanted to lean into him for warmth, but I knew I shouldn't. Fortunately, the taxi arrived, driven by a man with an unpleasant appearance. Despite that, I felt a slight sense of relief. Sensing my hesitation, David offered to ride with me, promising he'd leave right after. Reluctantly, I agreed, finding some comfort in not being alone. In the back seat, I leaned against him, and his arm wrapped around me again, this time sliding higher. His fingers lightly touched my chest. I turned my head, trying to read his intentions in his eyes. He smiled gently before leaning in to kiss me for a brief moment. Then my phone rang, breaking the spell. It was my husband. Suddenly, I snapped back to reality. A voicemail notification popped up along with 2 text messages. "Where are you? Everything okay? I'm coming home." I quickly typed back. "Had a drink after the gym, waiting for a taxi. Everything's fine." His reply came instantly. "All right, call me tomorrow." I rolled my eyes, thinking, yeah, sure, like you really care. I carefully removed David's hand and sat up straight, putting more distance between us in the car. As I moved, his fingers brushed against me one last time. My mind raced. What are you doing? We were already approaching my neighborhood when I asked the driver to stop. I got out quickly, not wanting to prolong the goodbye with David. He rolled down the window. "Thanks for the drink and for listening," I said, trying to keep the conversation light. "We'll wait until you're inside," he replied. I glanced at the house nearby and realized it wasn't mine. "Oops, wrong house. Mine's on the next street." I laughed awkwardly. "Guess I need to pay more attention." David didn't hesitate. "I'll walk you there. It's just through the alley, right?" Sighing, I agreed and led him to my house. The alley was dark but familiar. David walked beside me. As I reached my door, my heel caught on something, and I stumbled. David immediately caught me, wrapping me in his arms again, and then his lips were on mine once more. Before I could fully process what was happening, I was pressed against the wall near my house, my skirt hitched up, my legs wrapped around his waist. Breathless, I whispered, "Not here." We crossed the street, trying to compose ourselves, but as I fumbled with my keys at the door, he was already worked up. Desperately trying to get inside, away from prying eyes, I struggled with the door. But David didn't relent, his hands relentlessly exploring my body. Just as I turned the key and opened the door, something completely unexpected happened. Voices rang out. "Surprise!" My friends, neighbors, parents, and children were all there, gathered together. And in the center stood my husband, holding a bottle of champagne. His smile vanished as shock spread across his face, and the bottle slipped from his hands, shattering on the stone steps. In that moment, everything I had worked so hard to hold together fell apart, like the broken glass at our feet. My marriage shattered too, into pieces that could never be put back together. Now I live completely alone in a small apartment. Everyone, absolutely everyone, has turned their back on me. Don't make the same mistakes I did. For a fleeting attraction, I lost my 25-year marriage, everything and everyone. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.